Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, I think I got my video studio here getting shaped up, so it's pretty good. So hopefully the audio is alright, and hopefully the video quality is a little bit better this time around. So what we're going to look at here real quick is this tax graph. On our homeworks last week, we had a little trouble with this. And so we're going to look at this graph first here. A couple things that you guys are pretty good about. You know, you get the early equilibrium quantity here, price and quantity, no problem. Most of you also have no problem recognizing that this tax is how big? 100. Because you know that you got to look between the distance between the two curves, not the distance between your two equilibrium points, where you would get 50 a lot of times. Most of you were pretty good about not doing that. The real trouble started to come when you had to look at the differences in consumer and producer surplus once we implement the tax. So let's take a second. Originally we paid 150, but we implement this tax now. The curve is going to slide up 100. The thing is, the buyers and the sellers are both going to share in the cost here. In this example, I'll show you why. Originally we paid 150. Well, our curve slides up like this, and most of you also recognize we got a new equilibrium point here. And this 200 now represents the price that our buyers are paying. Now the deal is, the sellers, do they get to keep the whole 200? No, because this is a tax, so 100 of this tax has to go to the government. And if you go from your 200 here, you drop down 100, you're right here. So this 100 represents what your sellers keep. No apostrophe. Now, if you look here, and I kind of wrote this so it's not going to come up as great as I would like it, this box here that I'm going to shade is the tax revenue. And you'll notice there's some tax revenue that's going to be paid by the buyers and some is going to be paid by the sellers. So this box is going to be divided. And it's going to be divided along that original price, which was 150. So here. Originally the buyers paid 150. Now they get 200. So that means that they paid $50 of this tax. And so let's say this is 30 units. Well, 50 times 30 is this box right here. And that's our consumer tax burden. One way that I always used to remember it, your consumer is represented by your demand curve. Well, this box touches the demand curve. Okay, so that's your consumer tax burden. On the bottom half of this box, we've got 150 to 100. 150 was the original price that the sellers got to hold on to, but now the taxes here, they only get 100 bucks. So that cost them $50, this tax did. And so 50 by 30 here again, so this bottom tax is your producer tax burden. Again, your producer and consumer tax burden is split using that original price. Now, here it's evenly shared, but not always. But before we get to that, one other thing. So your consumer and producer surplus is still on here. It's gotten smaller. Remember, for producer surplus, you need three things. You need to know what the price is. Well, the price for your sellers now that they get to hang on to is 100 bucks. You need to know the supply curve. Well, here's their supply curve. This is what it still costs them to produce their units. And you need the quantity. Well, here it is. And I can make my triangle like that. Producer surplus. Same thing for the sellers. Or the same thing for the buyers, rather. What's their price now? 200 for the buyers. Where's their demand curve? Right here. Their quantity is 30. Consumer surplus. Okay? Now, if you understand that, you're in great shape. But the real question becomes is if I switch the elasticities of these curves. If I make the supply curve steeper, the demand curve shallower, it's going to change who pays more of this tax. Remember the rule. The person that has the more inelastic curve has the greater what? They have the greater burden. So here, take a second. I got this question here for you. And hopefully you can see this. I got 6 things that I'm asking for over here. 6 things. So if you can figure out the price the sellers keep in this example, the quantity the producer consumer surplus, let's say after tax after tax, that would be great. And the producer and consumer tax burden. Now I'm going to give you a hint here to get you started. The original price here and here is the same, but the new price for the buyers and the new price that the sellers get to keep is going to be different. And this is one of the things that really tricked you up on your homework assignment. So let's see if you can do this. If you can take a picture of this graph, you shaded it in all right, you can send me a picture, or you can text me these answers, and I'll check you out, and we'll see about maybe a little extra credit, or a little extra credit to kind of boost up that homework grade for you a little bit. Okay? Questions? Let me know. So take a look for a second.